This book, this book is so good that I still have it. I have been reading and rereading this book since I was, I don't know, 10? This is an incredible book. This is a really great book. I'm going to tell you now why it is this is such a great book. So see and read the aura isn't just about being able to see and read the aura as in to know more about the energetic field that's coming off of everyone. And there's a lot of people who don't understand that they're old school, and so they're not believing that there's such a thing as an aura. But the truth is, what an aura is that energetic field that's being broadcast from your body. And it's already been proven by science for a very, very long time. The only way that you do not have an aura is if you are dead. Only dead bodies don't have an aura, and that's because an aura is really, literally, actually only the energetic field that's being emitted. Every time your body pumps blood through your body, your heart's pumping your blood, right? Well, that creates a certain level of energy flow, and that is the third reading. When you take your blood pressure, they look at how quickly your heart is beating, right? Yeah. Then they look at two other things. One of those other things that they look at when they're measuring your heartbeat is how quickly your blood is pulsing. But there's a second thing. That's the rate that your blood is pulsing through your body. So there's how quickly the rate that your heart is pumping, then the rate that your blood is pumping through your body. And the third thing is the energy. See, you create a certain amount of electricity that actually rides on the bloodstream. When that energy is gone, that is specifically because you have died. So a lot of people see the word aura and they think that it's some sort of spiritual mumble jumble. But when you put on, say, night goggles and you can see an energy reading with night goggles, you're not seeing the blood. You're not even seeing their body heat. What you're actually seeing is the electricity that their body is emitting by pumping that blood. Don't believe me? Good. Look it up for yourself. Find out when you take your blood pressure and when somebody else takes your blood pressure, what specifically do those three readings mean? One is beats per minute. One is blood rate, how quickly the blood is pumping. Find out for yourself. Prove me wrong. What is the third reading? Find out what it is. Talk to a nurse, get the exact acronym, and then look it up. You're going to enjoy it. Back to this book. Omoshiroi. Hi! Konnichiwa, genki yo. A couple of people just came back. Yes, we do like to speak multiple languages. This is that kind of a channel. Anyways, see and read The Aura. It's by Ted Andrews. Konnichiwa. How's the weather over there? Let me know. It's by Ted Andrews, and you're going to find all sorts of things. You're going to find mostly pictures and how-tos so that you can start to see your own energy field. But it also teaches you how to feel your own energy field, and it teaches you about chakras. It says I'm having trouble with connectivity. I might be losing you. Oh, so here's the deal. Crown chakra, brow, pituitary, throat, thyroid, heart, thymus. So you might be thinking, are we talking about chakras? Or are we talking about the body? What is this? So again, going back to what I was saying about when you take your blood pressure and how it's actually about the energy that you're creating and how quickly it's riding and pulsing along your blood flow. Each chakra actually isn't, so chakra is a very ancient word, but what it really means is point of energy. So your pituitary gland, your heart, your thyroid, those major areas that usually, those major areas of your body, they create and they pulsate the brightest. And this book explains it in a much, much better way than I am right now. That's okay, because you're going to go out and you're going to see this book for yourself. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with this book. It's mostly exercises. It explains in great detail what the energy pulsating through your body actually is and how long technology has been picking up on it and explaining it to people, and that there's actually different types of gadgets, I'm looking for the section so I can tell you about it. There's different types of gadgets that can actually tell you about another person's energy. And that's important because that's how you can find out if someone is ill, if someone's weak, if someone's healthy. They can really help. But, okay, so let's see. Measuring the auric field, that's chapter 4. Let's look at what chapter 1 is. Chapter 2, or rather chapter 3, learning to see the aura, has all these really, really great activities for you to do by yourself. They're not expensive. You don't have to go out and buy things. You just literally sit down and you allow yourself to feel your own energy. And that doesn't mean you have to feel your own energy. All you have to do is literally sit down, concentrate, close your eyes, and they give you step-by-step instruction how you can start to feel your own energy. It's really great, and it's actually a lot of fun. So measuring the auric field, there are many new electronic devices which can measure the energy field around the human body. Unfortunately, the average individual will never be able to afford most of them. This does not mean that we cannot determine the size of our own auric field. So that's just the beginning of step 4, or chapter 4. In chapter 4, they teach us how to make different implements in order to sense the energy field of the location we're in. See, if you start to understand that the energy field or the aura, which is something that a lot of us who are woohoo like to use that word, is because it's an ancient word and it has a lot of meaning to it. But in actuality, what it really refers to is the electrical excess that's coming off of a living being. Well, the earth is alive, and certain areas of the earth, it is proven, have a stronger electrical current, and that is usually where literally electrical companies will choose not to put their poles. What does that mean? In other words, it's like that. If you plug something into a socket and you're in, say, Europe, but you're coming from America, there's a good chance that you're going to overcharge what you just plugged into the wall. And that's because the rate that the electricity is surging through the wall in Europe is different than in the US. There's different rules and there's different standards. So we usually have a much weaker power source going through our houses in the US than we would if we were in, say, Italy or we were in Germany. It's a much stronger electrical current that's usually running through houses. And then interestingly enough, for light bulbs and other electrical figures, if you're in Britain, the energy is actually much, much lower. That's actually to protect the light bulbs from exploding, whereas here it's the exact opposite. Okay, how does that relate back to this book? That's because this book teaches you how to make different implements that you can use in everyday life to find a lot of different things. Water, electricity, another living being. Why would you need to do that? Why can't you just look out your window and find another living being? Pest problem on your property or where you live. And you're trying to figure out where they're hiding, where they are burrowing. In theory, you could use this book. You can make a couple implements, and by following the steps of this book, you could find out where that rat, where those rabbits, where that mole, whatever it is burrowing, because it's allowing you to see what your eyes can't see that well. But it can also train and strengthen your eyesight when you use this book. All right, so what they tell you up front on the back is see the colors of the aura and interpret their meaning, make simple tools to measure the aura, cleanse, strengthen, and protect your own aura, increase your sensitivity and intuition. This is the part that's actually important to me. So when I was a little kid, I had a very easy time seeing different electrical patterns. Like I could walk into a room and I could tell you that area of the room wasn't on, meaning maybe the breaker switch had gone off and that area of the room was not on. I could tell you that because I could see it. That's something that I lost as I got older, but I can still feel it physically, like in my arms and my hands, and I can also hear it. When I walk into a room, I can actually hear an ambient hum if the room is on versus if it's off. And I can feel almost like a coat coming off when I walk into a room that has no electricity running. A lot of people, though, can't, but I think one of the reasons why I can is because I read this book so early and I reread it. Also, it's very, very, yes. How can I implement it into my meditation? Very good question. This book teaches you all sorts of meditations and great ways of quieting your mind in order to see and feel your energy and other things' energy. So, okay, listen. Think of it like this. I had to let the dog go. Think of it like this. Have you ever wondered, for those people way back when that found oil in, let's say, the US or different areas where they wouldn't expect to find oil, how did they find it? If it was in an area that no one expected, no one was prospecting, there wasn't even supposed to be oil there wasn't supposed to be gold there wasn't supposed to be this or that there. There wasn't supposed to be a strong current or electric energy running under a stream or running through the ground there. So how did they know to start their company there? How did they know to dig in this particular part of the ground versus that part of the ground, looking for the oil or looking for the whatever that they found that nobody else found? It's because they did something very traditional, very old school, something that a lot of us smirk and snark and laugh and just make fun of, and it's called dowsing. And you might be thinking, dowsing, really? Isn't that just a couple of sticks? The answer is yes. It's a couple of sticks or metal sticks, just something that's encased in a handle that's large enough so that instead of it just being like you're moving a couple of sticks around, or maybe you have like this. I didn't even eat this today. This is a ring light, right? Well, what's the difference between a ring light and a dowsing rod or a divining thing or whatever? Well, the difference is basically we would need to attach a handle that was just a little bit larger than this so that this area here could move of its own volition. And you might be wondering, why would we need that area to move its own volition? Because that's actually how people in the olden days and now, and they actually refer to this here, it's how people both then and now used to use dowsing rods in order to find a vein of clean water, in order to find electricity, in order to find a natural vein of electricity, in order to find maybe vermin that were hiding on their property, all sorts of things. Hey, 7 Fear. The body temperature is only readily visible because of the electrical impulses. Think of it like this. If you put on night goggles and you walk into your house, you're not going to see the heat being emitted from the stove. You're going to see the level of energy that the heat is more or less riding on, right? So it's the same thing with a living being. If you're looking at a living being and you've got night goggles on, you're not seeing their heat, you're seeing the electrical impulses that's actually creating the heat. Does that make sense? Don't worry, you'll get it. So listen, I want to tell you about this. I'll read this really small excerpt and then I'll leave you guys alone because I know you've got stuff to do. But the history of both methods is ancient. 7 Fear, have you met Lasidi before? Lasidi is pretty cool. You guys might want to talk, I don't know. But anyways, the history of both methods is ancient. Although often thought of as a strictly psychic tool, the dowsing rod and the pendulum are employed in many traditional conservative arenas of life. And they give an example, better than what I would give. Pendulum are employed in many traditional conservative areas of life. They have been used in wartime to locate underground mines, tunnels, etc. A number of utility companies, and I want you guys to look this up and come back in the comments and tell me what you found, okay? I implore you. Okay, so we've been in wartime located underground tunnels. A number of utility companies train repairmen in their use so that only the appropriate lines are dug up when repairs are necessary. Although some would scoff at their use, their accuracy is continually being verified by traditional scientific equipment and methods. Your higher consciousness or intelligence communicates to you through your nervous system, sending you signals. Radiesthesia devices, such as the dowsing rod and the pendulum, amplify those signals of communication. You can, therefore, detect them and translate them. You thus open further channels of sensitivity to those subtle energies of life. So the idea is really to train your conscious to connect more easily with your subconscious. And what this does, the reason to do that, some of the reasons behind that, honestly, is you live a better life when you do. I used to be really, really sad. I used to feel really sad. I used to feel really worried. And I used to just have this quivering feeling in my stomach all the time because I was so open to what other people were feeling. And I was so open to what they weren't saying. I could feel it in my stomach, and it was making me a nervous wreck. When I started using this, when I started using some of the really basic tools in this book that seem silly, but they made a really big change in my life, I started to change. When you start to implement something that's real, no matter how silly it might seem on the surface, you'll know because you'll start to change, and it'll be a change that other people will remark on. I became a lot more calm, and I became a lot more self-sufficient and a lot less nervous or scared or worried when I started using this book, because it taught me different things to help me feel safe and secure, because I was blocking myself off from other people. I was way too open to other people. If someone was really irritated and annoyed about something and they had something they were really mad about, I could see a different color around them, and I could also feel something. It would feel like someone had suddenly pushed on my shoulders, and I would feel something in my gut, and I would see a darkness when I looked up, when I looked at the person who was feeling something that they weren't voicing out loud. I remember one time in particular, I was meeting up with some family, and they were trying to sneak up on us and surprise us. We were there to meet them at the airport. And when I first saw him, I didn't even fully recognize him because I saw this dark cloud of dark gray and black around him, and I could just make out his face, and I could see his opposite eye. He was looking like this. I could see his opposite eye really well, and usually there's light shines in your eye. It's just because there's light literally, bouncing off your eye. It was like most of the light was out of his eyes, but the whites of his eyes were especially bright, and his eyes are not black, but his eyes looked black. And there was this really dark, black, inky cloud around his face and around his person, and it was scary. And it started off with a feeling like someone suddenly pushed me on my shoulders, and I felt something in my stomach. I looked up, and then eventually it came out, and he had the same expression again that nobody else saw except me. And it came out in that moment that he was mad about something, somebody else on his day. He had to drive extra. It took him longer to get off the plane. When he did get off the plane, there was all this stuff with the baggage he had to do. He had to pay more money. And basically he was angry about that and some other things, and he wasn't saying it out loud. But I could feel it and I could see it. And in that moment when I could feel it and I could see something, this has happened to me so many times. I get hot and then I get freezing cold in certain areas, and I hear a ringing in my ears and nothing else. And you've probably seen this, like if you watch one of the Marvel movies, when there's a big explosion, if someone's too close to the explosion, everything will be silent, and the only thing that they'll be able to hear, or you'll be able to hear, even though you can see there's all this commotion on the screen, is a high-pitched ringing that hurts their ears. That's exactly what happened to me. And that's the sort of place that I was in all the time. Whenever someone had something, imagine if you were around other people and you felt every time they had a grievance or an irritation that they weren't voicing. Imagine how often you tamp down your own feelings and emotions and irritations and frustration. Imagine if other people could feel all those different times. It would be kind of a nightmare to live in that situation. That's what I was living in. And this book made my life so much better because it helped me shut myself off a little bit, and I really, really needed to. But in the case that maybe you're not as open as you would like to be, and you would like to have a little better informed intuition into what somebody else is feeling or thinking on a certain subject, you can't really know exactly what they're thinking, but at least how they're feeling about it in a more general way. This book is really fantastic for that too. If you really want to have a better idea of what other people are doing, you want this book. But if you also want to have a better idea of maybe where there's clean water, or maybe where there's, if you want to know more about your surroundings, both living and even seemingly inanimate, this is the book for you. this book really, really changed my life in a really good way. I still have it now. It's yellowing and it's worth it. And if it gets really, really, really dark and yellow and I need to replace it, I will. Here's, I'll read to you one highlighted portion and then I'll finish. Because boy, this went longer than I meant, right? So good though. Okay. For those of you who are interested also in different forms of science, this is a great book for you. You'll have a really good time reading this book. Okay. So you've probably heard something about, actually, you know what? I'm not going to read any more of this book. You guys go out and find this book, read it for yourselves. Tell me how you felt after you finished reading it. But just remember, there's all sorts of really fun, interesting, cool activities to do in this book. This isn't just a, you read it and you move on. You read it and then it makes you interested to do something. But it's all really geared at people who want to use what's already in their home. They don't want to go out and buy something. Maybe they don't have a lot of time to do stuff. This is the perfect book for you because it has all these really cool, interesting facts and things that you can do on your own spare time without having to spend money or spend a lot of time to do it. So it's a pretty great book. I really love it. I really suggest it for you, especially if you're in a situation where you have to work closely with other people. This can help you to understand other people a little bit better and also help you to be a little bit more under the radar and understand yourself a little bit better. And honestly, it helped me have a better, calmer, more positive life. And there's a lot of meditations in here too, and all sorts of things. So go and find it for yourself. It's called How to See and Read the Aura. It's by Ted Andrews. Boost your energy. Oh, that's the other thing. It made me a lot healthier. Boost your energy, detect health imbalances, protect against psychic vampires. Believe it or not, frankly, there's a whole lot of psychic vampires out there. And there's people who know how to do it without ever saying a word. They just make you feel like crap whenever you're around them. And this book helped me protect myself against users and psychic vampires, and it helped me know myself better so that I know when my health is starting to slide instead of after I've gotten sick. And it's just a fantastic book all the way around. Listen, guys, thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.